Hello and welcome to the new video. Today we're gonna take a look on how to fix the fire types for the Go Battle League. This is a series that I kinda want to start if you're interested in this. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because right now we're going to have two very lame caps going on, and I feel like this is more of an interesting content for what could be for the next season. So we're going to take a look at why we are going to try to buff fire types today. Main reason is I recently looked at the Great League chart and saw that the best fire type is ranked 100, and this is Charizard, and Charizard is basically the only real usable fire type Pokemon in the Open Great League right now. Yes, there's a Alolan Ninetales that, not Alolan, normal Ninetales, Kanto Ninetales that they might be able to use, but that's basically it. And this is really poor for a type that's actually not that bad. Like, typing wise, the fire type is really decent, but if we see in like other leagues, we're going to see as well again. Ultra League here, we're going to see Charizard as well as Talonflame. Cool. Like, again, same typing basically, that is kind of still viable, but the rest is kind of awkward. And then for the Master League, we're going to have Reshiram, which you barely see at all, and Ho-Oh, which is basically the only decent one. Heatran is still okay, but this is basically it in terms of fire types. And we have basically one Pokemon that's really decent, which is Charizard, and the rest is kinda, yeah, mid to not usable. So, why is it so? We can maybe take a look at the current attacks for that. As you can see here, the fast moves are currently available for the fire typing. It's going to be Ember, Fire Fang, Fire Spin, and Incinerate, which is a little bit awkward, but we're going to take a look at this a little bit later on, because as we can take a look now at the chart moves, we're going to have a little bit more variety here. Like Fire Punch, like the Blaze Kick, which is exactly the same move for whatever reason. Why is Blaze Kick the same as Fire Punch? I don't know. But then we're going to have Fire Blast, we're going to have Blast Burn, which is also a very decent move. Fire Blast, of course, is more of a hard-hitting move that needs a lot of energy, not really that usable usually. We have Flame Burst, a move that you don't see at all. Like, why do you not see this move? Because it's completely horrible, and why does it even exist in the first place? Then we're going to have Flame Charge, which is also a decent move, but we cannot really change it too much. Flame Wheel, 60 damage for 55 energy. Who wants to use this one? Flamethrower has to be, of course, in sync with Ice Beam as well as the Thunderbolt, so we cannot really change that one. Fusion Flare is a signature move, that's totally fine. Heat Wave, 95 damage for 75 energy. Like, why? Like, there are so many moves here, as you can see, that are all kind of usable. The best ones really is basically Weather Ball, which is only towards basically Pokemon that have an ability that's like Drought, for example, that is going to allow them to set Sun. Otherwise, you basically, at least in Pokemon Go, are not allowed to use any of the Weather Ball moves, which I feel is actually a cool thing, to be fair. But yeah, otherwise, there's not a lot, so we're going to change some of them, and we can only really change 5 of them, really. Ember is the only fast move that we can change, because Fire Spin, if we buff this one, we're gonna see Solgaleo being way too overpowered in the Master League. That's the basically the only issue for Fire Spin to get buffed. The Fire Fang is, of course, in the Fang move category, so like you had to buff Thunder Fang as well as Ice Fang as well at the same time, which is kind of awkward to do. And yeah, Incinerate is already kind of a decent move, to be fair. 5 turns just suck, but like you cannot really change that too much. They could buff it a little bit, but it doesn't really matter too much in my opinion. So we're going to have the Ember, Blaze Kick, Flame Wheel, Flame Burst, as well as Heat Wave. And we're going to see here already for the first slide, these are the Pokemon that are mainly decent that can learn Ember. And I would at least give that 1 more damage, which is going to make this a little bit more of a unique move, which is going to give you 8 damage for 6 energy for 2 turns, which is doing a lot of damage, which is kind of nice for, I think, as well the fire typing, but still the energy generation is not too crazy. The thing is, if you would go, for example, +1 energy, the Ninetales might be a little bit too strong, but the rest is also not really benefiting too much from it, so I think Ember with like 1+ damage is seemingly a little bit nice here. So we're going to take a look here real quick at Ninetales with the Ember buff. We're going to see here the first old one is going to give you an average rating of 483, and now with the Ember buff, we're going to get a +26 rating there, +4 matchups that you're going to be able to win with the Ember buff, which I feel like is a fairly decent one. If we would go for 1+ energy, I think we would end up by like a +60 average or something like this, like something crazy, so it would be a little bit too strong in my opinion. If we would give it +1 energy, Ember would also allow it to reach Weather Ball, basically 1 less Ember before that, which is kind of awkward and like a little bit too strong maybe for Ninetales, so I feel like it's kind of nice. But still, if we take a look here, for example, at Turtonator, which is going to usually run the Incinerate, we're going to see that there is basically no real buff for this, like plus 20 while losing 2 more matchups is not really that ideal, but it's a little bit better maybe than Incinerate, but it's a little bit different because Incinerate generates energy a little bit faster while the Ember is doing a little bit more damage, so it really depends on the Pokemon, but I feel like this would be a decent change for the meta so far. Next one, going to be Blaziken. Blaziken, I kind of want to say that it's going to be 5 less energy because I don't really see why it has to be a Fire Punch clone, especially because most of the Pokemon that learn this move here also would learn Fire Punch. So, like, why would you really want to do this? Of course, Kikli, or like Hitmonlee here would most likely, Kikli is the German name by the way, Hitmonlee is most likely not going to learn any punch moves, but like of course most of the other ones fairly certain that they learn Fire Punch. Here, the only real decent Pokemon that really has Blaze Kick is going to be of course the Blaziken, and we're going to take a look at the differences here, and you might be a little bit in shock because we're going to see here right now the Shadow variant getting an average of 490. And with this, we're going to see an average of 552, which is very strong. But this is only here in the one-shield scenario. It's a lot of times that you have to bait the Blaze Kick and then land the Stone Edge. And the 2-shield scenario as well as the 0-shield scenario are looking way worse than this one. For example, 0-shield scenarios, as far as I can like remember at least, is below 500 average, so it's not even that crazy in the 0-shield, so you need shields for this Pokemon anyway. And the 2-shield scenario is also like a little bit above 500, but not as crazy as the 1-shield scenario here, so like 2-shield scenario is a little bit above 500 because you just get farmed down so easily from a lot of Pokemon. So it's going to be still fine in my opinion. I feel like this would make at least Blaziken a very squishy Pokemon, also a little bit usable, which I feel like is kind of fine, especially as fighting type Pokemon are not as great in the current meta. Let's take a look at Flame Wheel next. Flame Wheel is actually a move that only a few more Pokemon learn this as well. For example, like Growlithe, I think, learners, as well as like Ponyta. But here we're gonna go for minus 15 energy because it's like so bad. Like 60 damage for 55 energy is really bad. And with this change here, this would be still a worse serve, but still at least a little bit usable. And while it does not look too great on the Marowak itself, we're going to see here right now that this is going to actually decrease the rating as well as the wins. But this is the thing here as well. Basically, Shadow Bone plus Flame Wheel is going to be more consistent than the Shadow Bone plus Bone Club, because usually here in calculations you're going to be able to bait Bone Club, get a shield from this, and then go for Shadow Bone, which in theory might be decent, but like it's very risky when you actually play it. Plus, Flame Wheel gives you better coverage just for like something like a Vigoroth or something like this, where the matchup is a little bit more awkward. So I feel like it's still an upgrade compared to Bone Club, but Bone Club wins, of course, in those calculations a little bit more. But this might not be the only update that I would recommend, at least for Little Marowak, which are going to come for later. So next one going to be the Flame Burst here. Actually a move that a lot of Fire-type Pokemon can learn. I just put here minus 10 energy and plus 5 damage, so we would be at like 75 damage and 45 energy. This is still not a great move. You could even argue for plus 10 damage, because it's still not really as significant. And also, I don't really have anything to show you here right now, because there was just no real decent Pokemon that currently can learn it, which we're going to have a different category for that later on. But here, next one, Heatwave. I don't really want to talk too much about this one. I did go for minus 20 energy here, so 55 energy for 95 damage. This is still way lower, for example, than a Blast Burn. Like, Blast Burn is 110 damage for 50 energy, so like you still going to have a way weaker move than most of the other moves that are currently around. But it would give at least a few Pokemon a little bit of a better coverage move, which I think is kind of cool for a lot of more unknown flying type Pokemon, and maybe it would be even something for the Moltres to run, but usually you kind of want to run rather Overheat. So again, not something that's going to be too crazy, but like would be cool at least for coverage. So next one we have here is going to add some attacks to Pokemon. So Blaze Kick, I want to look at this one, and I saw that basically no other good fire type Pokemon would learn this. So here would be some cool additions for it. I'm not going to go into detail because these are not fire type Pokemon, but these would be definitely cool if they would learn the Blaze Kick. But Blaze Kick is actually kind of not as common on fire-type Pokemon, just funny, but a lot of other Pokemon learn it as coverage. So, moving on for Flame Wheel. Flame Wheel would be more of an interesting one because a lot of Pokemon can learn it, and I feel like it would be also cool on a lot of Pokemon, giving it, of course, a little bit of a cheaper move to go for. We can take a look at Torkoal real quick, which is going to have here the Fire Spin, and here we're going to go even swap over to Ember, which we buffed before, and Flame Wheel going to give it way more play in the current meta. And Torkoal itself is going to be one of the coolest Pokemon if we ever get a buff for them, because Torkoal has really great bulk, which is really rare to be seen for Fire-type Pokemon, so I hope the Torkoal Torkoal gets some love eventually. Also, Torkoal would be one of the Pokemon that should learn Weather Ball though, which would be even better than the Flame Wheel. So hopefully Torkoal gets some love for the next move update. Moving on, we're going to have Mystical Fire. This is a move that is currently only learned by both the Drifblim as well as the Delphox, but a lot of other Fire-type Pokemon can also learn it. Something that would be really cool for, especially, honestly, the Togetic, while it's not a Fire-type Pokemon, would be great coverage for this Pokemon. As well as we have some other ones that definitely could learn it. Don't know how much I go into detail here, I don't really do it, because it does not really matter too much, as there are, like, just not really the biggest differences. For example, for like Ninetales, you still want to have Weather Ball, which is just cheaper. But yeah, so now we're gonna go from the more interesting part here about some new moves that we want to add. And this is more like the thing that I kind of want to see here. Will-O-Wisp. This is a move that basically every Fire-type Pokemon can learn. It's a non-damaging move in the main series games, but we already have something like Charm, and I think there was another one. For example, also the signature move of Obstagoon, Obstruct, which are all moves that don't do damage in the main series games, but like afflict some status or like get lowering attack, or like the stats from opponents, so, like for example with Charm. So like they can definitely put those moves also as like fast moves or charge moves into the game. This happened already. Here I would really like to see a Will-O-Wisp as a fast move for the Fire-type Pokemon, because nearly everything can learn it. And here I made a Powder Snow clone, or like a Wing Attack clone, which is totally balanced. And I took a look at this, and you could even argue to make it even stronger, but this would be really, really cool on so many Pokemon, and especially also on like some coverage Pokemon, like for example the Dusclops here would really appreciate this move. I am honestly not really the person that likes to have so many really good 2- and 1-turn moves, and I would rather see like some 3-turn moves, but if you want to make this a good 3-turn move, you really have to buff this move basically even above what Water Shuriken does right now. So I don't really think it's going to be the best if it would be anything lower than this, especially as we have already the Fire Spin as well as the Incinerate, which are already high turn moves here. So yeah, this is definitely going to be something interesting, which we're also going to take a look at right now. Alolan Marowak here. No, also I'm still going to keep the Bone Club, of course. Fire Spin compared to Will-O-Wisp, going to give it a great upgrade here. Winning 3 more games, plus getting just an average rating of like plus 30, while still being insanely balanced, would be so cool for this Pokemon, and also would just look so cool for this Pokemon, because it's literally just a Ghost and Fire-type Pokemon, which is always the coolest for Will-O-Wisp, of course. And yeah, I honestly hope this is going to be the fast move that we're going to get for the next season, because it feels like so natural, and I'm really confused why we don't have that yet. But also, you could argue for Will-O-Wisp on Entei here, which is also a little bit awkward, because as you can see here, it does not really change too much. Like, it's going to give it a better average rating, but it doesn't make the Pokemon overpowered at all. So I would not really say that this would be like the craziest upgrade either for most of them, but like it's basically what you kind of have to do is give them some kind of decent new charge move, like give them something like Flame Burst, give them something like Flame Wheel, buff them quite a lot, and then give them an extra fast move to actually do something significant here, because I feel like just giving them one certain move will not help Fire types. You have to do both like fast as well as charge moves for them. Next move. Honestly, I don't know why this move is not in the game yet. Flare Blitz. It's literally in the main series games, as far as I know, a Brave Bird clone, so like why do we not have that in Pokemon Go? Which would be a better alternative compared to Overheat. Overheat, I think that's basically the same, but Overheat is going to drop your attack, which makes you kind of want to swap out eventually, because you don't do damage with your fast and charge moves anymore. Well, for Flare Blitz, you can just go ahead and go for that, and you can still stay in and do some solid damage with your other charge moves and fast moves. So I feel like Flare Blitz would be such a solid pick for the meta. And if you put like everything together and give, for example, Arcanine here some other moves as well, with the Will-O-Wisp as well as Flare Blitz, you're going to see Arcanine gets plus 130. Of course, this is going to be actually not like this in the main series, like if you actually played them in the games, because Psychic Fangs plus Will-O-Wisp is going to get baited most of the time, and then you're going to hit a Flare Blitz at a debuffed Pokemon. But still, you can make those Pokemon actually work, and honestly, Arcanine has so much potential, which I find kind of sad that we still haven't seen anything towards that. And Fire-type Pokemon didn't really get any love recently either, so like I really hope that we're going to get some great buzz for Fire-type Pokemon. If we can take a look at Rapidashi as well, we're going to see here Incinerate and Drill Run. Flame Charge here is the normal moveset, and here if we go for Will-O-Wisp, Drill Run as well as Flare Blitz there, we're going to see an upgrade of around like 40, which is not crazy, but definitely still solid. You can even still go for Incinerate if you want to get a little bit more damage there from that. I think Energy Generation should be the same, but this is looking really, really solid in my opinion for Rapidash as well. Just like Pokemon that are a little bit squishier and you don't really see too often, would buff them without making them broken. And I feel like this is like literally kind of what we need here. Otherwise, those are all the possible attacks that we currently have for fire typing in the main series games. We're going to see here some interesting ones. A lot of them are like, yeah, basically signature moves of Pokemon, so we don't really going to take a look at them yet. But we're going to have here, for example, the Burning Jealousy, which could be a move that a lot of fire type Pokemon learn this move. Could be a very cheap move, like something like 40 energy, 65 damage, or like even 35 energy, 55 damage, or something like this. Would be cool. A lot of Pokemon can learn this. Eruption is like one of my favorite moves that I would like to see in the game, but I don't really expect that this would do too much for the game here. Very cool move in the main series games though. We're going to have Fiery Dance, which is a which is a signature move basically of Volcarona. We're going to have Fire Lash, which not a lot of Pokemon can learn. We're going to also have something here like the Heat Crash, which is also kind of interesting. Inferno was also a move that I thought of covering here because I feel like this could be also cool, interesting, like 4-turn fast move or something like this. Lava Plume would be something that I also would be interested in. This could be like something like a Crunch clone. But again, there are quite a lot of decent ones that you could use, but again, there are just, yeah, it's a lot that we could like theorize on, but I feel like those are all kind of solid that we could see in the game eventually and would make the fire type a little bit better. So, for the end here, those are in my opinion the Pokemon that have the most potential for future updates. Torkoal, just the bulkiest fire type Pokemon for the Great League. We're going to have the Arcanine, which has a lot of move choice updates. We have the Ninetales, which is already fairly decent, but just needs like maybe a little bit of a better fast move forward to actually work out a little bit better than it does currently. Then we're going to have the Turtonator, which is of course a great subtyping with Dragon, which rather needs like a better Dragon type move like Breaking Swipe, but also has a signature move Shell Trap, which you also saw here on the right side there. There's Shell Trap, which is the signature move of Turtonator, which would be most likely a very high damaging fire type move, but also most likely high energy, so that would be cool for this Pokemon. Then we have a little Marowak, one of my favorite Pokemon as well to use, which I feel like if it gets a Will-O-Wisp plus maybe a Flame Wheel buff, it would be so much better than it is currently. And then we're going to have the new Stardust Skeledirge, which also has a lot of potential. So this is going to be it for today's video. This was actually a lot of work here to research everything, put everything into my own version of PvPoke to showcase it to you. So if you appreciate this work, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know in the comment section what type should I take a look at next. This would be very interesting for me. And I'll see you then. Bye bye.